Jimin is standing at soundcheck, hours before the show, and someone out in the empty rows holds up a poster. Not a normal fan sign. 3 faces on it. Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Erling Haaland and Jimin. Underneath, it reads exactly like this. Haaland, the god of football. Thor, the god of thunder. Jimin, our god. J-Hope sees it first. He's up on the stage doing his usual pre-show checks, running through mic levels, glancing out at the handful of early fans already in their seats, and his eyes catch the sign somewhere in the middle of the crowd. He doesn't just glance at it and move on to the next thing. He stops. He calls Jimin over. Jimin walks up, reads it, and just starts laughing, that full, head-back laugh he does when something genuinely catches him off guard. They stand there together reading this ranking of a Marvel god, a Ballon d'Or contender, and Jimin, like it's the most normal comparison in the world. Jimin actually pulls out his phone and takes a photo of the sign before soundcheck continues, because apparently even he thinks this one's worth keeping. Nobody around them treats it like a big deal in that moment. It's just a funny 30 seconds backstage before a stadium show, the kind of thing that would normally exist for a few minutes, and then get swallowed up by everything else happening that day. Costume changes, sound checks, the 100 small logistics of putting on a show for tens of thousands of people. Except it doesn't disappear. Because a few hours later, Jimin brings it back, and this time the whole stadium sees it. Here's the setting, and this part matters, because it's the reason this moment hits as hard as it does. This is Allianz Arena, Munich. Capacity of 75,000 people. This isn't just some big venue BTS happened to book for a stop on their world tour. This is the actual home ground of FC Bayern Munich, the club Erling Haaland plays for. So when that fan made a sign comparing Jimin to Haaland, they made it inside the one building on the planet where that comparison carries extra weight. Jimin isn't just being compared to a footballer somewhere neutral. He's being compared to the guy whose own stadium he's currently standing in, under the same roof, on the same pitch-adjacent stage. And there's a detail here that makes the timing feel almost too perfect to be coincidence, even though it genuinely is. Haaland had just come off a World Cup knockout run. He scored a brace against Brazil in the round of 16, then scored again against England in the quarterfinal, before Jude Bellingham came alive late and scored twice, sending Norway home 2-1. That elimination happened roughly 24 hours before BTS walked out on stage in Munich. Nobody planned that. The tour dates were locked in long before anyone knew how the World Cup bracket would shake out. But it means Jimin performed this little tribute in Haaland's actual house, one day after Haaland's own tournament run had just ended. The timing lines up in a way no PR team on earth could have scripted, and that's part of why the internet latched onto it so fast. It just feels written, even though it wasn't. So now picture the concert itself. Full production. Massive synchronized LED walls wrapping around the stage. A live stream running simultaneously into markets across Asia. 70,000 people packed into the stands. Light sticks going, the kind of scale where every second of the show has been mapped out to the minute. And in the middle of all of that, Jimin does something that isn't on the set list, isn't in the choreography, isn't part of any transition anyone rehearsed with the director. He walks, not dances, walks, head up, shoulders pulled back, a pace that's unhurried but completely deliberate, the kind of walk that says, I know you're watching me, and I've decided exactly how I want to be watched. If you've ever seen Haaland after he scores, you know this walk on sight. It's become his signature, recognizable without a single word of explanation. The way certain athletes develop a physical trademark that ends up as famous as anything they actually do with the ball at their feet. Jimin recreates it, step for step, in front of a sold-out stadium. And the crowd gets it immediately. The roar starts before he's even taken 4 full steps. Some of that is because plenty of people in that stadium had already seen the soundcheck clip circulating online before the show even started. Some of it is because Haaland's walk has become culturally embedded enough that people recognize it cold, without any context at all. Either way, 70,000 people process the reference in real time, together, in the same second, and the sound that comes out of that recognition is the kind of noise you can't fake or manufacture with a lighting cue. What makes this land the way it does isn't just that Jimin is funny, although he clearly is. It's that he chose to answer the fan's sign physically instead of verbally. He didn't grab a mic and explain the joke to the audience. He didn't shout out the fan who made the sign. He just performed the answer with his body, on the exact piece of ground where it would mean the most. That's a very specific kind of performing instinct. Understanding that showing something is funnier than explaining it, and that location changes the entire meaning of a gesture. The same walk somewhere else is just an impression. In Haaland's own stadium, it becomes a statement. The football thread didn't stop there for the night either. In the lead up to the Munich shows, Bayern Munich themselves have been posting content connected to BTS, including a video of their own players, Manuel Neuer among them, holding up army bombs for the first time and looking completely lost about what to do with them, until Kim Min-jae stepped in to explain the light stick tradition to his own teammates. Bayern also had custom jerseys made specifically for the group, 8 total, 1 labeled BTS, and 1 for each member, all carrying the number 7. Some of those jerseys ended up worn on stage that night. So football wasn't a single punchline that got used once and dropped. It ran through the whole atmosphere of that Munich stop, on both sides, the club leaning into the BTS visit, and BTS, through Jimin especially, leaning right back into the football world that had gone out of its way to welcome them. That's part of why clips from that night showed Jimin carrying the bit even further, treating the stadium like it was, for one night, as much a football occasion as a concert. Whether it's the walk, the jerseys, or just the general energy in the building, the through line stays the same. Jimin picked up on something small, one joke, one sign, one photo taken in passing, and kept it alive across the whole night instead of letting it fade away after soundcheck ended. Once the video got out, it didn't stay contained inside the usual BTS fan spaces. That's the part worth sitting with for a second. Normally, a moment like this circulates fast inside the fandom first, and it takes real time, sometimes a couple of days, before it crosses over into completely unrelated corners of the internet. This one skipped that step. Sports accounts picked it up within hours. Entertainment outlets that don't typically touch K-pop coverage at all had it written up the same day. Football fans with zero context on who Jimin even is were still laughing at the clip, purely because the walk itself is recognizable enough that the joke lands with no explanation required. That's a rare kind of crossover. One piece of content landing with 2 completely different audiences for 2 completely different reasons at the same time. Fans quickly stitched together a before and after video. The soundcheck moment, where J-Hope calls Jimin over to read the sign, cut directly into the concert clip of Jimin performing the walk. People online called it a perfect how it started versus how it's going moment. And that label stuck because it captures exactly what happened. A tiny, unplanned interaction backstage became the setup for one of the most talked about seconds of the entire Munich show, and nobody involved could have predicted that in the moment it happened. Comments under these clips kept repeating the same sentiment in different words, that Jimin has this way of turning something small into something everyone remembers, that his sense of humor is exactly why people can't look away from him even in a moment with zero choreography, zero pyro, zero big production behind it. And that reaction feels earned, because this wasn't built by a production team. It wasn't in the show's rundown. It was Jimin, reading a fan's joke a few hours earlier, deciding entirely on his own that the joke deserved a second life in front of everyone in that building. As for Haaland himself, nobody actually knows yet if he's seen the clip. His schedule after the World Cup elimination hasn't been made public, so whether the person at the center of this whole joke has any reaction at all is still an open question. Which honestly adds one more layer to the story. Jimin performed a tribute to someone who, as far as anyone can confirm right now, might not even know it happened. Step back from the walk itself for a second, because there's a bigger picture worth mentioning, and this moment doesn't really exist in isolation. Jimin finished his mandatory military service back in June the year before. Munich is part of the Arirang World Tour, the first time all 7 members have been back on a stage together at full stadium scale since they were separated for service. Every date on this tour carries a bit of extra weight because of that context. Fans watching closely, night after night, to see if the chemistry, the spontaneity, the personality that made people fall for this group in the first place is genuinely still there after everything they went through apart. And that's exactly what this small moment proves, in a way that a rehearsed segment never could. You can't script genuine spontaneity. You can't plan for a member to notice a fan sign during soundcheck and then, hours later on his own, decide to bring it back to life in front of 70,000 people who are already watching his every move. That kind of thing only happens when someone is completely present in the moment, sharp enough to catch a reference the first time it's shown to him, and confident enough in his connection with the audience to know the payoff will land. It's a few seconds long. It's not a big production moment, but it says something much larger about where Jimin is right now, comfortable enough on that stage to take a risk that could have easily fallen flat, and connected enough to that crowd to know, somehow, that it wouldn't. That's really the whole story. One fan sign, spotted by accident. One photo taken in passing. One walk, recreated hours later, in the exact stadium that belonged to the person being imitated. And a clip that ended up traveling further, faster, and wider than almost anything else out of that entire European leg of the tour. Not because of a massive stage spectacle, but because of one small unscripted decision that Jimin chose to run with in front of 70,000 people who will probably remember it long after they've forgotten the set list.